Welcome to episode 7 of Lessons in Leadership. My name is Grant Greef, and in this episode, I'm joined by Lolo Ndlovu, who is the CEO and founder of The Sneaker Shack. The Sneaker Shack helps treat any style of shoe and is based in South Africa and has expanded to over 9 outlets employing more than 50 people. My biggest takeaway in this episode in chatting with Lolo is never to take your team's background and experience for granted. Especially in the retail environment, people come from very different experiences across all levels, whether it be at management or operations and support. So it is important then to recognize this and to help create an environment such that your team empowers themselves no matter what background they have. I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did. So Lolo, can you share just around what the business is currently focused on around the growth and what the future looks like?
Yeah, so the future looks very exciting. Like you said, we are opening our 9th branch tomorrow. So covering the East Rand market for us, which has been very exciting. So it's been really awesome, man. I think so we began about 4 years ago. I pinch myself because it always feels like we began yesterday. We've just been on an amazing journey. Team's been really great. We've been growing really well. I think we definitely have the product market fit now. It's albeit late, 9 branches later, you always feel like you're at development phase all the time. So I love being in the trenches. It's been super, super cool.
Let's talk about the team, because when you get to a level where there's, say, more than 20 people, it really gets interesting around the dynamics that each person brings to the table, and also the fact that you can't now presume that everyone understands exactly what is expected and where the direction of the business is. There, what I found is there's a lot of repetition that's required and reiteration. But for you in your position, this is the first time that you have managed a team at this size with this much diversity of background, right?
Yeah. So this is my first shot at retail. So that's in itself is a whole different other conversation, Grant. Just a different animal. I think growing past 20 people, from my experience, isn't necessarily the head count that's difficult. Growing from 1 branch to 2, once you get that right, going from 2 to 3 should not be that much of an issue. And the key behind that is just getting all those processes right. Essentially, in retail, what you want to do is get as close as possible to some cookie cutter model, where it doesn't seem all that intimidating, whether it's 10 or 20 or 30. You trust the systems, like you trust the processes, and those generally give you the required output. And I think we've been really hard at work trying to refine those processes. Now, there's no start and finish. You're always iterating. You're always improving. I guess the kind of market validation for me is always tricky. Like once customers say, hey, listen, we really like it, then you got to keep it up from then on, which is also very exciting.
If you were to then think about someone in a position where Lolo was, say, more than 5 years ago, and they now were moving in the direction where their team was growing, or they were now moving into a position where they were going to be leading a team that is more than, say, 20 people, or far more than what they have ever led in their experience, what type of preparation or what type of tips could you possibly offer that you've experienced to date, whereby it really helps you in ensuring the team, no matter if it's 5, 15, or 50, they are guided in a way where everyone buys into the direction and there's practicalities involved in you making sure that that direction is always clear?
I think everyone's got to know their roles, right? So I think you've got to, first of all, be very deliberate about what it is that you're building and what the objectives are. If it is sort of scaling from 20 to 50, in our case, I'd say next growth phase would be from 10 to 20, right? So that's going to be, next year's going to be a really, really important part. And you've got to be very intentional with the objective. Spell it out. And try to be as granular as possible. And once you get there, once you have some sort of a foundation or a blueprint, or let's call it a framework of just exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve, then you can start, let's say, selecting your players. You've got a field of 11 to fill, and you start selecting the players. And by that metaphor, I mean, you start strategizing what's going to be needed when, what type of system is going to be needed where, start plugging those in. So I think my advice would be try to get as clear of a picture as possible before pressing go. It will always give you somewhat of an edge and a little bit of foresight as well. I think that's very important, especially when you in the sort of scale up period. I mean, you and I know like mistakes can sometimes be very expensive, and like you want to try and avoid them as much as possible. So try to build in as much predictability as you can. I know it's almost impossible, but like you want to try and get as close as possible to that.
If we focus then on how is it that you're able then to reiterate this framework? How is it that you're able then to make sure that there is predictability and clarity? What are you doing on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis such that you're in a position where you can ensure as best as is possible and as practically as is possible that the team is focused and has the clarity that they expect to give 100% contribution in their role?
First of all, we have a plan, right? So there's a 1-year plan where we've mapped up all the sort of OKRs. These are this is the mandate for this year. And we have that as a group, and we have that for each role. How does this role contribute to us getting to this or achieving this objective?
So you're using the OKR environment, and I think just for everyone to if you don't know about OKRs stand for objectives and key results, and it's most known or widely known from Google. Google uses it in their organization. And so Lolo, let's go into OKRs for your business. Are you establishing an objective and then key results to align to that objective for the company, and then for the divisions, or then for management, and then for particular roles, and then for outlets? Is that how you are doing it naturally?
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, it's very much a kind of a top-down. What do we want to achieve as a group, as the Sneaker Shack? How is that going to influence a management team? What are going to be the requirements from a management perspective? And then ultimately, from a branch perspective, what do we need to be doing in branches in order to achieve that goal? So it's very much segmented into those different areas, but all speaking to the larger group objectives. That's generally our approach.
And how often do you review those key results linked to that objective in, say, a branch or for someone's role? Is it on a biannual basis? Is it every quarter? What's that frequency look like?
We have the larger kind of OKR, and it's split into quarters, but within that split, there's weekly tasks that have to be executed on. And every week there's check-ins. Hey, where are we on this? Where are we on that? That helps us kind of tag things along. It doesn't always work. Things fall through cracks naturally, but we try to use that as a sort of guiding principle. So we do look at it from a weekly basis, monthly basis, and then the big sort of like rear view assessment or kind of evaluation would be on a quarterly basis. That's the kind of big one. Just how much should we be carrying on in this direction? Is there an opportunity to pivot? Can we skip 1 or 2 steps to get us closer? We try not to do that too often. I think every quarter just allows us to just keep our heads down and focus on the larger objectives.
I agree with every quarter. From even what I've experienced is if you have a frequency, say, of every month, because of the environment where patterns form usually over quarters than they do over months. And so therefore, reviewing it every quarter in that more holistic environment is far more actionable, because you can say, all right, for the next 3 months, based on what we've understood now for the past 3 months, this is what we're going to action. And it gives people time to then action it without this short-termism approach where you think everything just needs to be done within the next couple of weeks. And maybe just for the listeners that want to research OKRs further, the key principle around OKRs, as far as I've learned as well, is that objectives are non-financial in nature. They're aspirational. They focus on direction. So for example, just to share from what we do at our company here at Search Kings is we have one where we want to grow the audience of Search Kings, right? We want to grow that audience. And then the key results, we have 3 key results linked to that are then financial or quantitative in nature, where it says grow the newsletter by 100 users every quarter, grow the LinkedIn page following by 100 every quarter. So I think really just if anyone interested in OKRs, definitely Google it and check it out and look at practical examples of it, because what you'll find is that at a maximum, no one should have more than 3 objectives per person, as an example. So the company has 3 objectives and then 3 key results linked to each objective, but it goes down and goes down, and you don't sit with one person having like 9 objectives, which is just completely overwhelming. And
I think I need to change some of mine, Grant. I think there's a couple people sitting with 5 or 6 in.
Well, this is, I mean, like I say, and that's what I really enjoy about this, is there's guidelines here, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow it exactly in that way. And especially in terms of the materiality of those objectives, right? Is they may be very interrelated, and so therefore I think then it may then mean that 5 is actually doable. But from what we've seen and what I've been practicing with, I found that 3 is normally the best number to create focus, to create alignment, and then those 3 key results that are measurable, that are linked with each of those. So someone's actually got 9 deliverables because of those 3 key results linked to each objective in that direction. So, but I'm no expert here.
It's something that I'll definitely have to pick up, because you just mentioned this idea of them being super overwhelming, and we've seen that. We've seen that, quite a bit. And what ends up happening, you miss 1 and then you miss 2, then the pressure piles on, and then you forget about the other 3, because now those start getting lost too. So I think I kind of like what you're saying, like the simpler you make it, by boiling them into like sort of the 3 keys, it definitely makes that pressure a little less. Thanks for that consultancy. Send me your invoice.
Let's jump now into the actual team, because I think this is very important. And I'll provide the following context before I ask the question. In organizations that are hiring university graduates, there's a certain expectation that when I employ someone in my 5-person, 20-person team, and everyone, if not the high majority of the people that I employ, come from university or come from a specific experience, say they went to a particular type of size of company. There's a certain way to lead and to then manage the outcome of what we want from that team. But when I'm employing a mix of backgrounds, when I'm employing a team where some have been a waiter for most of their working career, or some have just qualified at the highest matric level, and they're not from university, they have a different experience, they have different priorities and expectations when joining a team. That very much is the case in the Sneaker Shack, where you've got individuals in your team that they've just got a matric and they don't necessarily have a BCom degree like people say within the auditing or the professional services environment sit, right? And that means that you can't just cookie cut the approach that one would take in, say, a highly professionalized organization where everyone's coming from, say, one pool of talent. And so for the Sneaker Shack, how have you got it right where you've embraced the backgrounds that everyone has and not presume that everyone has the same level of expectations as if they come from one particular pool of talent?
Yes, that's a brilliant question. Grant, excellent question. Look, I think we haven't got it right, I think is the short answer. I think we continue to try to get it right. It's incredibly difficult. And I think one thing that we're trying to do is really get our expectations book right. So if we know what we're hiring for and just exactly what the skills requirements are, and from a interpersonal level to kind of like an ethics and kind of work rate level, and also just sort of general human being, like what type of people do you actually want to hire? That's always a work in progress for us. I think one of the things that make it easy for Sneaker Shack, or let's say easier, is that there's an understanding of the kind of environment in which we operate. The common understanding is like, okay, we're here to clean shoes, and don't mess up the shoes, have them done in time, and then at some point you're going to have to talk to a customer or two. Right. The way we've approached it, and we've moved slightly away from it now, was that forget about the customer, focus on hiring for efficiencies in the cleaning space, right? There is no customer if the shoes don't come out tip top. So that's been, I think, for the past 3 years, 2.5 years, that was the main focus. And then we realized that we can't double down too hard on that, because people actually have to be able to talk to customers in order for customers to have a decent experience. So we're like, oh, okay, cool. So now there's a bit of a hybrid. Like now you need someone that's really cleanliness focused, for lack of a better word. It's such a tough thing to get right, Grant. But I think for business, if you're very clear on what you're hiring for, it can definitely make that process a lot easier. The majority of people that you employ in retail are exactly what you've described. So I think it is the responsibility of entrepreneurs, of business, to really be deliberate about those frameworks, because you, at some point, you have to say that, hey, listen, it's okay that you haven't done university, or you just have a matric, but how are you going to get them into the business and get them where you need them to be, especially if there's like that willingness to learn and to grow. We don't want to be an environment or a small business sector where you throw away character, right, for lack of skills. If you've got the character and there's a burning willingness to learn, it becomes our job to have those training programs. We're huge on the training side, not only like sneaker shack training, but like literacy training, for example. So a whole bunch of work to be done there, but it's a very important area for us to continue working on.
There's a saying that where diversity is inviting people to the party and inclusivity is asking them to actually dance. For me, the big important lesson here that I think everyone needs to be mindful of is that in any organization, no matter if you are a national bank, or if you're a big audit firm, or if you're in the retail industry or a big hospitality group, there is a high likelihood that, yes, the immediate group of people that you may be dealing with are similar to where your experiences, your backgrounds came from, but there's a high likelihood that other areas within the business, whether it be in the facilities management side of things, cleaning, whether it be in the catering side, the cafeteria, whether it be in other operational jobs, people come from very, very different experiences, and therefore one genuinely needs to be conscious and mindful of the fact that they need to be included. And how is by participation, actively asking them to participate, not in a way where you're now trying to ask them to participate in something that is very unrelatable and very intimidating, but getting them to a point where, in my view, how you describe it now around the training in literacy, not just technical training, but people skills, is about building up or supporting them in such a way where their self-esteem can increase, their confidence can increase, because if that happens, naturally is they will be more involved in other areas or more open to voicing their views. Because at the end of the day, I mean, what you've experienced, and I've used the sneaker shack services for my sneakers, and it's that touch point where someone genuinely then wants to help and believes that they can help, and not just because someone has instructed them to help. And so I think you're being humble by saying that you haven't got it right, but I don't think you ever get it right, because it's a practice. You're always looking for ways to evolve, and the best person to ask for what you should do next is more likely your team, especially the team that is in a position where they have got aspirations. They just don't necessarily know practically what is the next step. And that is, like you say, for you to make sure that you equip them in a way where they can empower themselves.
Absolutely. And Sneaker Shack is a very youth-facing business, especially when it comes to employment. Our average age across our 50 headcount, average age is less than 25. So like very, very young people. And a lot of them, this is their first gig out. And hey, like they deserve a gig. We can't have businesses putting on too many sort of entry barriers. Otherwise, people can't get that initial experience. We've made it our responsibility to create this kind of academy for life skills, if you want to call it. And we always talk about this as a springboard, right? You want to say, hey, listen, come in, get to learn how it is to work in a professional environment, and then off you go. We'd love to see you succeed, whether it's within the business. Now you're the one sort of facilitating training or leading the stock and inventory business. We're very bullish on the kind of upwardly mobile aspect of our employees.
I definitely think that your platform that you provided is giving people a springboard into the future opportunity, and their families are going to be directly impacted. And I think what I've learned is just recognizing the fact, and if possible, doing that in a way where they're involved.
Absolutely. 100%, Grant. Absolutely.
And so, Lolo, in terms of the business going forward, maybe share what you envision for the Sneaker Shack, where people, as you grow, will further amplify their ability to contribute in the team, built in such a way where it's not reliant on Lolo, that they actually will be able to be self-sufficient within the environment that you and your management team are creating.
From a sort of chronological perspective, I think you want to get the basics right first. So what are we hiring for, and having that be super solid, so we get exactly what we're hiring for coming through the channels. Once they're employed at Sneaker Shack, right, we want to make sure that, like we said, every employee has the opportunity to move forward. And part of that is not just the training, but it's also, like we said, like the literacy aspect of it. We put them in positions of leadership, starting just with branches. Hey, like, listen, why don't you shadow the branch manager for a week? Why don't you be an assistant manager and kind of take on a few more responsibilities for a couple of days? Like, and I think one thing that we always preach in the stores is that the Sneaker Shack is going to continue to grow, like number one. So if you're an employee at the moment at a care technician level, chances are 2 or 3 branches are going to open up very soon, and there'd be a branch manager position opened. So there's always this kind of idea that, hey, at any given point, there's a new store that might come up, and that could be your chance. We have a head of training in Sneaker Shack that goes around stores answering questions. We have a fantastic HR where people can ask questions about the new opportunities that may come about, certain areas that they need to work on. We also have performance evaluations per employee, and part of that is to get them very much aware about all the contributing factors to their success. So a bit of accountability, like you've got to assess yourself, reassess you, and start taking accountability for your success as much as we take accountability for your success. So we have a couple of those in place that have worked quite well. Just as an example, our head of facilities at the moment began as a branch sneaker care technician in Bryanston, and he's now head of facilities. Our head of training, also a branch sneaker care technician, then turned branch manager. Now he's heading up the training aspect. So those are areas that we want to keep refining, because at the end of the day, like you're saying, there's just this fantastic talent, Grant, this huge talent, and it may not be the way we're used to, but it's just impossible to ignore, especially when the hand is up, very keen to do more. And it becomes our responsibility to then build those frameworks and upward mobility structures for them to be better.
Well, I think you are being very humble around how everything has been implemented, because the stories that you've shared about people progressing in their careers from literally starting at the entry level role, I can imagine in your business, in your teams, what will be happening across the outlets is, as people start seeing the examples being set by people physically moving through their career, there's not a lot of words you need to say when people are visually seeing what's happening with others' careers. And therefore, by that example, that creates a ripple effect. People that wouldn't necessarily have pictured themselves in that position of growth now find themselves in that position of growth. And I genuinely believe it's because of you and your management team creating the mechanisms in which they can grab the tools and grab the opportunities to empower themselves. And last question for this session, tell me about your support system, how you've navigated growing the Sneaker Shack and being a leader within the organization. Describe what your support system right now looks like and how it came to fruition.
Yeah, so there's a lot that contributes to my support system, and I think I've been very lucky in that regard. I think just with family, the early days of Sneaker Shack, just to give you a bit of background. So I just came back from university and I get to my dad's house and I tell him, hey, listen, I want to move to Maboneng, like middle of town. This guy's going crazy. Like, what are you doing? So I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. And when we got Sneaker Shack going, again, just like, hey man, like there's a whole world out there. You should be focused on other things. But there was never a doubt if we put our minds to achieving this project, it'll definitely come to fruition. And my dad's been a huge support system. And as things grow, that support just becomes a lot bigger. From a management team point of view, I was happy to bring in a big mate of mine now, a guy called Dave Keatley, that's been super, super helpful, really shaping up a lot of the business and just getting us into a really good sort of cadence space. I think we've made really smart hires in the right places. We continue to learn in that aspect. You and I, most of the viewers will know that it doesn't matter how great of an idea you have. If you don't have the team to execute, it's almost impossible. So we continue to try to get the right people in the right seats. I have an amazing girlfriend who's been super supportive as well, getting me to smile when chips are down, which is super important. As an entrepreneur, that happens very often. Like, this is an entrepreneurship podcast. Like, guys, can we be honest how often we feel blue and down? That's very, very normal. So all the support systems have been super helpful. And yeah, I don't think I'd be here without them.
Amazing, man. Well, thanks so much, Lolo. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the practical insights, and keep on pushing on and setting a great example, because I think it's inspiring as a fellow South African and someone that really believes in the quality and potential of this country. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening to this 7th episode. We have episode 8 coming out next month. It's going to be an incredible talk by the CEO of Ocean Basket, and I'm really excited to get her wisdom in terms of both from a South African point of view and how she's conquering overseas as well.